Let's get everybody up to speed. It was a remarkable evening, fascinating to see what took place. Democrats notching some key wins on Election Day. Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani is elected mayor of New York. He defeated independent Andrew Cuomo with about 90% of the expected votes in. Mamdani has more than 50% to Cuomo's roughly 42%. And even if you were to factor in the Sliwa vote, it looks like Zohran Mamdani would have still won. Democratic Representative Mikey Sherrill elected New Jersey's next governor, beating Republican Jack Ciattarelli. In Virginia, you had former Democratic Representative Abigail Spanberger set to become the state's first female governor, defeating the state's Republican lieutenant governor. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump said that Republicans lost yesterday because he wasn't on the ballot and because of the ongoing government shutdown. I don't know what your reaction to all of this is. I'm fascinated by just how big the win was for Zohran Mamdani. I thought it would be closer. I'm fascinated by some of the poly market results in terms of how frankly close these elections were, but how the poly market wasn't close. I don't know what that says about anything. And I also now wonder what this means for the Democratic Party and whether this is going to be considered. We didn't talk about California, by the way, as well, in terms of what happened there.
California pretty strongly, too, by better than 60% on the ballot. Look, this was a pass-fail test, though. They passed because these were all Democratic strongholds where these things happened. This was the anticipated result, so there weren't any upsets. Democrats passed the pass-fail test in this situation. I do wonder what it means for next year with the midterms and which route the Democratic Party is going to take in terms of whether they're going to follow the far left progressive wing or try and follow a more moderate centrist attack when it comes to how they handle national elections.
Midterms are always bad.
Yeah.
Just, is it going to be worse than normal or not? I thought poly market was incredibly good. I mean, it was 90-10. It was never got anywhere except 90-10 from him. There never was any question that he was going to win. And it never got more than 90-10, and maybe it was 84-15 in New Jersey for a little while, but there was never any waffling. I mean, I didn't wait up for any of this, and you know, in my son was like, what he was worried about was down in Virginia, and that guy with the tweets about killing, you know, someone's family, and he won too. I think it's a little weird, Andrew, because you know, I saw some takes on CNN and David Axelrod, and so they were giddy and gloating, and it's just weird that, I mean, they know better than to think that this is a great outcome in New York City and for the Democratic Party to move that far left. But anything that repudiates Trump, it's like an enemy of my enemy. It's like they'll ride whatever horse they can that repudiates Trump, including a Democratic socialist. And you know, if you sleep with the
Joe, look. I'm not disputing that. You know, my view, I don't like the extreme sides of either party. I'd much prefer something in the middle. But the truth is, I think there's a lot of people. It's actually kind of like the question that Norah O'Donnell asked the president, which is to say that, you know, she said to him about Zohran Mamdani, is he the left version of you? There were a lot of people in the Republican Party that did not want President Trump ultimately to win either, but ultimately fell in line in the same way and have continued to support him. And so we have this sort of unique moment in our country where I think there's people on both sides who think both sides are, to some extent, extreme. I know you don't think that that's the case.
I think of it in a different way. I don't. The litmus test for me is communism and socialism and big government and free things, and
you know, populist, and populism has run rampant for.
Well, there's a populist. You know, we're going to have one of the founders of Aristo-populism is going to be on later today, Chris Buskirk, who's with Omid Malik in 1789, and we'll talk all about that. I mean, it's weird to let them eat cake, Aristo-populism, Warren Cass, people like that, to where billionaires can try, you know, to help people that need help. But I always come back to, I've seen progressives try to help the people that they want to help. The policies never work. They never work. They never, ever work. And the people they're trying to help end up worse off. So it's how you approach things. You know, Andrew, small government, maximum freedom, low taxation, private sector builds wealth and builds prosperity. So I don't see how Trump and Mamdani, you can say them in the same sentence, but that's it doesn't, the comparisons don't hold, except that Democrats think Trump, or the left thinks Trump is extreme. Yeah, he's extreme, and there's tariffs and there's things like that, but at least he's, deep down, believes in capitalism and believes in the private sector, hopefully.
There
they believe in the private sector so much that the government's investing in the private sector.
There are big questions about how Wall Street's going to react to this, how business in general.
We had 12 years of.
We had more than 50% increase in business taxes.
We had a disaster we had the blah 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 for 8 years, and then Eric Adams for 4. The city's fine. So
Look, I wonder how divided the city's going to become as a result of all of this, and that's what I'm concerned about. Both the divide that I think is going to exist in the city. Frankly, I think the divide that's going to get even wider just in the country writ large. And for the city, I live in New York City. I worry about, we keep talking about whether billionaires are going to leave the city. I worry more about whether businesses are going to leave the city if, in fact, the mayor is able to, increase corporate taxes. Forget about wealth taxes. Corporate taxes unto itself, given how high those are ultimately going to go, could create a real issue in the city. And I'm not even sure he has to be able to enact them unto itself, meaning even if he's unable to do it, even just talking about it as an idea, as something that he's trying to pursue, I think will scare off companies that were ever considering moving to New York, and will scare off companies that are maybe in New York considering whether to move or whether to move more employees to other places. And that, I think, is actually going to be a real issue.
Well, I think Chuck Schumer's great fear and trepidation about a primary from the left from AOC, it's going to happen. And the whole, government shutdown, everything else that Republicans say, that's why he needed to do that. I think it's going to be a Senator AOC. So
I do wonder if this makes
get ready for that too.
Much worse. The government shutdown, because the Democrats will look at last night's results and say, hey, we don't need to fold or cave anytime soon.
That they're gonna. It's going to be
Hopefully it happens.
It's going to be this week.
Hopefully it happens this week.
But I don't think
I did hear there were about 12 senators who were.
Yeah, I don't think this had anything to do with the shutdown. Look. What is the base level of people that just think Donald Trump is the worst president ever? It's 30%. Then I've said this before. Then you add in, people that like free stuff and want health care that doesn't cost a lot, would like the government to pay for it. You got another 20 there, so you're at the majority already at 50%. So none of this is surprising.
There's some crossover in those two circles.
Yeah.
Here's something I was thinking about this morning, guys.
This is your problem, Andrew.
After President Trump won,
it's your problem. I'm glad I got my own problems out there with Mikey Sherrill.
After President Trump won, I think we all said, you know what, we're Americans. Let's give him a chance to do it.
Is that what you said?
Support
I don't remember you.
No. That's
the first time too, right?
I said
the
that.
The first time, did you?
That.
Yeah, all the Democrats did. And the first time too. As they were conjuring up
great success. I do.
As they were conjuring up the whole Mueller probe, they were saying give him a chance. Yeah. And as Democrats were saying, hey, let's give this guy a chance.
As a New Yorker, Joe, as a New Yorker, I woke up this morning and I said to myself, you know what? I don't agree with everything this mayor or
you want him on the show.
Well, now he's going to be our mayor. Says or plans to do, but I want to give him a chance, and I hope, for the sake of the city, he's able to.
Well, you wouldn't even say you weren't
voting.
You wouldn't even say you weren't voting for him.
Excuse me?
You wouldn't even acknowledge that you weren't going to vote for Mamdani. So so you got that. You can tell him, hey, I didn't even say I wouldn't vote for you. So he'll come on the show. We can talk to him, and he can tell us how everything's going to be free and it's going to be great.
Look, the truth is that as a journalist, I think it's not my role, and not even my role. I actually think I cannot tell you who I'm voting for. You may disagree. You have a different position on that, but I think it's better not to. Not only better not to, I think it might even be a policy.
Okay. I mean, you can't give money, but I think you can make it clear of things that you disagree with, or else I don't even know what you are. If you can't, if you don't have the, that's your thing. Good. Stick with it.